What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first ever Dom and Pop emergency podcast. That's right, breaking news. Daron Payne signed the largest extension in NFL history for anybody not named Aaron Donald at the defensive tackle position. We're here to break it down. What a great day. Woo! Pop, how you doing?
How's it going, son? You gotta be sized.
Man, I tell you what, I am pretty psyched. I'm having a good day. Probably not as good of a day as Daron Payne, but I'm having a pretty good day.
You got
I'm
paid.
about $90 million short, but man, I did not expect that at all. Did you think that was coming? I
No,
mean,
I definitely didn't expect. I was hopeful that they'd be able to work something out, but to be
yeah,
honest, it's one of those things that I thought was going to drag out and maybe go unresolved into the season. So yeah,
yep,
great news. You were the one. You said when he signed the franchise tag, you said he's gone. What'd you say?
yep.
What'd your pop say?
So you said it's not over yet. You said it's not over yet. You think they're working it out. It might happen. You were at least more optimistic about it than I was. I can't remember exactly where on the line you landed, but you were thinking it wasn't hopeless. I thought all hope was lost at the franchise tag, and he came back and signed. I mean, I think they gave him a Godfather offer. Like, I think it got to the point where they were just like, look, you want to test the open market, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to make you the highest paid defensive tackle in the league that's not named Aaron Donald. Are you in or do you want to go? Because if you want to go, good luck getting that somewhere else. And I think he looked around and he saw, Chris Jones on the market. He saw some other really talented defensive tackles on the market. And he said, you know what? Moving is expensive. They say it's one of the most stressful things you can go through in life. Let me just take this $90 million and stay here with my brother, Jonathan Allen, right next to me, build the line. I think it's great. Obviously now you'll see on Twitter people are talking about we're spending the most on our defensive line out of anybody in the NFL, but it's our best position group, so that's how
Not
it should be,
Fangula.
in my opinion.
People complain about everything. It's a great
Not from a complaining perspective, but just from a that's where we're at now, like news update perspective.
look.
But I agree, I'm fun anybody
If you look
complaining.
at the core of the strength of that defense, it's those two defensive tackles. It's that tandem,
Yep.
and I think they're the two most important players on that line in combination. Right, even more important than the defensive ends. And you mentioned that defensive ends are more readily available and easier to acquire. And we saw the guys filling in for Chase Young did a pretty darn good job, this season. So, I think it was an
Yep.
important signing. Shout out to the king of the emergency pods, JP Finley, Mitch Tisler, Pete Haley, and Mitch Tisler made a great point. He said, given the defensive tackle market, there are a lot of D tackles that need to sign. In fact, signing him early, even though this is the second, you know, best contract for a D tackle ever, it's not likely to be at the end of this free agency period. So we getting it done early actually probably saved us money. It didn't allow it to drag out.
Yep.
And in terms of the dynamic, I mean, it just shows we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. When they tagged him, it was probably a conversation. Hey, we're going to tag you right now, but we definitely want to get the deal done. I think when Daron Payne looks at it, you're right. You forget that these people are human, having to move and having to change teams, as well as break up that partnership that he's got with Jonathan Allen. He looked at it and went, "Yeah, we're here. We're building something," and I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting angle with the ownership because you're still seeing stuff get done. The Eric Bieniemy signing, the Daron Payne signing, but it only increases the value of the organization, puts them in a much better shape going forward. And it's not really money that Dan's going to have to deal with more than likely. So, but you know, great news, great player. Let's just hope that he continues to rise. I think what he's 25.
25 or
Yeah,
26, something like
yeah,
that. He's
yeah.
young. He's young. Obviously had the best season of his career last year. He talked about um, he had observed or he had been told through coaches or trainers or something along those lines that finishing was something that he wanted to focus on going into the year. And then he goes and he ties a franchise record for sacks at defensive tackle. I think he figured out how to finish last year. So it's just, I mean, you really think about we saw Chase kind of start to come back into form towards the end of the year last year when he got healthy. We saw the year that Sweat had. I mean, if those four can be healthy for 80% of the games, we've got a serious, serious defensive line on our hands for, I mean, at least this season and next season.
Well, and the
So
depth,
that's
right?
super
Like
exciting.
I've heard the other people say, "Oh, the draft pick for Mathis was a dumb pick," as if the only reason they picked Mathis was because they thought they were going to lose Payne. That obviously was not the case. What they're
Yeah.
trying to do is build that depth. I mean, injuries happen. So you think about Mathis, Ridgeway, and the fact they play a 5-man front
Smith
quite a
Williams,
bit. Smith Williams and
Obata,
Abada, right?
yeah.
I mean, they've got a lot of talent on that line. It's clearly a strength. And, I think people saying, oh, it's contract year, so he played out and now, he may not be motivated. I think it's also a matter of a young man coming out of school at 2021. This is all brand
Yeah.
new. It's all, you're wide eyed. You probably don't realize the work ethic. I mean, you're a similar age to Daron Payne, right? You probably understand now what it takes to be
Yeah.
successful from a work perspective, much more so when you just came out of school. And these guys are the same way.
Yeah.
So I personally think it's clicked for him. And he realizes that this is the work I need to put in the off season. He still seems to post those off season workout videos, and I think it's clicked. He knows what he needs to do, and this is going to create that continuity of coaching, teammates, everything. And I think it's put him in the best possible position for success.
Yeah, and I mean it's just a no-brainer when you look at the money too. It's like he was guaranteed I think 19 mil
Yep.
on the franchise tag, maybe rounding up or around there, and now he's guaranteed 60 for the next 3 years. And it's like you can triple your money if you just sign on this dotted line here and we're going to take care of you. And I think what I love about it more than anything and we said the same thing with the Terry contract Ron, it's amazing. I texted you this. I came on here and we did a postseason breakdown, and I tore into Ron for 40 minutes. Uh, and since then, he hasn't missed. But what I love about this signing and what it symbolizes, especially with Payne, is Ron dangles the carrot but he will reward you the way he's building this team. And it's not just talk when he talks about trying to build a culture, trying to set a foundation, and trying to reward guys when they establish that. And we
Right.
saw it. We first thing he does, John Allen, and then we see he's staying true to Logan Thomas. He's been talking him up, saying he's going to give him a shot to really get back to it this year. We see it with Terry McLaurin, and now we see the best example of it, in my opinion, with Daron Payne. He pushed him. He said, "You want it? Go get it." Payne got it, and now he's been rewarded for it. I think if you're Montez Sweat, I think if you're Cam Curl, I think if you're even Jahan Dotson, these young guys, you're looking at this and you're going, "Wow, okay, there's $60 million on the other side of this for me too. If I can,
Yeah.
if I really put my head down and I go,
Well, you talk
you
about,
know."
it starts to change the reputation of the team and the culture of the team, right? In the sense of, people will say, well, why would I stay in Washington? And now it's like Eric Bieniemy's quote, why not Washington, right? I mean, you're just seeing
Yeah,
McLaurin gets extended. They're able to, get Bieniemy in here. Now it's Payne. And don't forget John Allen, right? Signing his
yep,
extension. So it starts to become, you know, much more commonplace and much more understood. And that's how the team is run. And, for as much as we get upset with Ron in terms of his actual coaching at times, I think the roster building and the culture building, I think it's hard to argue with. I think they've drafted well. I think they've kept the important players around, the core players around. And yeah, everything's not perfect, but what team is? You're not going to hit on
Yeah.
every player, but in general, what's building is good. Now, just get the rest of this off season cleaned up, get that ownership situation cleaned up, and there's a lot to be optimistic about. Of course, most important position on the field is still a wild card. I think this pretty much cements us being taken out of the Lamar sweepstakes because there
Yeah.
really just is no money left to do that. You'd have to start wiping guys out left and right, and I just don't think that's going to happen. So, uh, another team off the board for our Ravens insider not to have to worry about. I think so good news
Yeah.
all around
It's
in the family.
yeah, everybody's winning, right? And I'm super pumped on this. I just think it's a great deal. It's just, and when you look at it too, the cap hit, I think the cap hit this year is actually less
Yeah,
than it would have been under the
yeah.
franchise tag. I saw something on Twitter. I tried to find the numbers on I think it's on Sport Rack usually has it. They weren't quite up to date on it yet, but I tried to find the breakdown. Couldn't find it, but I did see around Twitter that it's looking like we're actually saved cap space by doing this. So it's just all in all, I mean, signs of a functioning organization, and there's always things to celebrate around here. When it got a good offensive coordinator, address that problem. Got a good defensive tackle, address that problem. Hopefully, we can shore up some things in the secondary, and I'm ready to go for next year. I'm fired
Just
up.
put the word out there, right?
September
I'm
can't come
just
soon
going to put the
enough.
word out there. Barstool Sports, ESPN, anyone else you want to name, Pro Football Talk, Dom and Pop come cheap, 6 million guaranteed, and we'll sign on it. We'll knock a zero
3 million
off there.
guaranteed. I'm out. 6 million guaranteed is
And we're climbing.
that's a
We're
drop
climbing.
everything
Look at those
number.
shorts.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, you want to buy low, right? You want to buy
That's
low
right.
because yesterday's price will not be today's price
Well,
soon
hopefully
enough.
the
But yeah,
first of many emergency pods. And yeah, it's great news. Dominic was all over it, and he calls me and like mid afternoon on a Sunday. It's kind of a strange time for him to call, and he's like, "Daron Payne." I'm like, we signed him. Yeah, we should have recorded that phone call, but that's the kind of
oh
interaction,
yeah, would have been
father
great.
son interaction, commanders love that we have, and exciting
Yeah,
news.
the
And
phone call. Yeah, we should have recorded that. That would have been funny. But I'm sitting there and I see the thing from Schefter. Daron Payne signs $4 million, 4 year, $90 million contract, and everything went black for a second. And I was like, "Oh God, where?" I'm traumatized. I'm like, yeah, he didn't sign it here. And then I'm looking at him. Wait a second. And then I find Rappaport's tweet. So I guess I might have unintentionally started a little bit of beef here. But Rappaport starts it with the Washington Commanders have signed Daron Payne, and I go, out loud. I just went, yes. I'm so happy. So great news. Happy emergency pod. We all know we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop for the next
got the
emergency
Uncle Nick
pod.
call too. So shout
But
out to Uncle Nick for the call. All
yeah,
family members around the Dom and Pop show are excited about this thing, and let's roll. Let's go.
yep. I'm ready to go. That's the only bad thing about this is now it makes waiting to September even harder. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get in there. So I say we wrap this thing up. Just quick little emergency pod. Just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, and so we're gonna drop this. This will be up some point on Sunday, and then we'll do our normal pod. Probably be coming to you on Tuesday morning instead. We give this one a little bit of time to breathe. Everybody can just celebrate, and then we'll get into all the Lamar stuff, all the Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, all that fun stuff. We talked plenty about that. So let's wrap this thing
Hit
up.
that
Without
like
further
button. Hit
ado,
that subscribe button. Show
yes,
us a little love. Let's go.
love it. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe for the boys showing out on a Sunday for the emergency pod. Anyways, without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another good season.